Hey everyone, Aaron here, host of Emerging Tech Mastery, jumping in before the show starts. I had a couple thoughts here. One was, relevancy causes us to learn things backwards in reverse chronological order. And I was thinking, so for example, with the show, it basically, you see the newer episodes first, but I feel like in a lot of podcasts, the best episodes are actually in the beginning. So I really want to focus on both time sensitive stuff and go back in time and really cover a nice broad yet focused spectrum of topics. And this is a really, I guess this is where sort of the editorial, media, journalistic instincts come in, because you really have to decide where do you want to, as I said, draw the line, right? Like, how far back and how deep in the tech do we go? But I think I want to keep it to like really simple concepts, like what is the cloud, what is hardware, what is a computer, and focus like that. So I really just wanted to mention that, I sort of threw the most kind of advanced topics into this at first. Like, I started my first show with NFTs, and so I kind of felt like, okay, that's not bad, but maybe it's good because it kind of got a bunch of current topics off my chest, and now really hone in on being very thoughtful about going line by line and hitting these names that we see out there. I mean, even I, being in this space, will go into certain niches, and the terms they're using are all pretty much foreign to me. So I do feel a little bit of a need to write it all down and document it a bit, and obviously do shows on them. So that was my thought. This is one we recorded actually back in April, so you'll hear some sort of outdated, well, like some discussions, right? Like before NAB, but literally NAB was in April when we first launched this show itself, and I can't believe it's already August here. So really excited to have the chance to, use NAB as a launching pad, but yeah, here we are, and we're continuing to improve and optimize and kind of stick to the basics, right? Because I think it's easy tendency to go off on all these different tangents, and frankly, I just want to keep the show super simple and just useful, right? Something that could be almost like a desk reference. So I almost have like the thought of being like part textbook, part encyclopedia, part edutainment, education, entertainment. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. Thanks for listening, and let's start the show.
We're not through yet.
7 days a week.
You'll be amazed at what my Auric XL, even at 8.5 pounds, picked up.
Call us now.
Call us now. Call now, and I'll also send you my Auric compact vacuum absolutely free.
Your credit card ready.
Hey, hello. Hey, can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me? Hello? Hey.
Welcome to Emerging Tech Mastery, a show that demystifies cutting-edge technology like cryptocurrency, the blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, virtual reality, the maker movement, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, edge, and even fog computing. Strap in as we ride into the fourth industrial revolution. Emerging Tech Mastery provides actionable knowledge, regardless of skill level, from experts in the trenches. We piece together this intel in easy-to-consume media formats, processes, and procedures. See you in the future.
Hey everybody, it's Aaron Mungle again with Emerging Tech Mastery, and we are here closing out our immersive technology series, which, we just sort of realized that's what it was as we were going along, and that's great. But I have Eric here, the immersive tech expert and enthusiast, and yeah, thanks for coming back, Eric.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Yeah, I would definitely say I'm an enthusiast. I don't know if I'm expert level yet. I don't think I've upgraded to that badge yet, but hopefully one day.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, we're all learning together.
Yeah, it's all part of the fun, right?
Yes.
The enthusiast part is, if anything, more just enjoyable, right? Because you're sort of more just enjoying the tech, and that's kind of what we're all about here. So,
yep, absolutely.
Why don't we start with, what is the metaverse?
What is the metaverse? Is it that thing that Mark Zuckerberg dreamed up last year for the first time, or originally all on his own, or is it something else? Right? Some people get that impression that it's a novel concept. If you look at it, actually, it's the idea of the metaverse has been around for a while. I, if I'm not mistaken, if I know my history, my recent history, the first time it was coined was in a novel. I'm reading this like I'm like starting to read this directly from the Wikipedia page. The term was coined in a sci-fi novel called Snow Crash, where people in a dystopian future live in a virtual world, I think. And I think more recently there was a film that came out a couple of years ago, maybe 2018 or 2017. It was called Ready Player One, and I admittedly I didn't see it, but I think it was directed by Steven Spielberg, and in that film they live in the future, like a dystopian future, and the way they people kind of commune and experience life is through putting on a headset and living in virtual worlds. So that's kind of another example of the metaverse, like a Hollywood version of the metaverse, right? So the idea of virtual worlds and has been around for a bit, like in science fiction and movies. I know Star Trek had like the holodeck, and there's always been these ideas of kind of visiting places that are not actually on Earth, but somewhere else.
I pretty much looked up what Meta said, Wikipedia, and then a little something
Mhm.
from Wired.
Yeah.
So Meta said the metaverse is a set of digital spaces to socialize, learn, play, and more. It's the next evolution in social connection like the internet, but more immersive. So that's Meta,
Mm. Okay.
Facebook.
Okay.
And then Wikipedia said, actually, I like their colloquial definition. Like their first part was kind of what you already said, but then they
Yeah.
say in colloquial usage, a metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on
Yeah.
social and economic connection. Wired said, to help get a sense of how vague and complex a term the metaverse can be, here's an exercise. Mentally replace the phrase the metaverse in a sentence with cyberspace. Actually
Yep.
really muddies the waters because actually
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking online shared digital spaces. So I think
Yeah.
cyberspace maybe is a little too vague. With that, how they put it, you could be like, oh, is the internet the metaverse? Or
Right.
any user interface, Windows, is that a metaverse?
Right.
Is software a metaverse? Is apps a metaverse? I'd like to maybe say the online shared space. That's at least my experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
VR, you have Mozilla Hubs. We're jumping ahead here. We were going to share examples in a bit. But like to me, the common thread, common denominator is like a shared online space. So I don't know what your thoughts are there.
I still think we can refine it even further, because one can argue, oh, like my WhatsApp group, or my Facebook chat group. I mean, that's kind of an online shared space. Or maybe this Reddit forum is an online shared space. But is that really considered the metaverse? I mean, I would say, I would say not. I mean, it does check those boxes though by those definitions: shared space, social connection. I think the part that they're really trying to advertise, especially in the past couple of years, is the 3D concept, the 3D and virtual world concept, and the idea of having a digital avatar to represent you. So for example, when we log into Instagram or any social media site, we have a handle, right? Whatever our username is, and then maybe we have a profile picture, right? Whatever, if it's actually you or if it's an anime character or whatever it is, right? I would say that for the metaverse that people are talking about nowadays will have some type of 3D character that represents you. I mean, whether it's actually you or it's like a goblin or an elf, or it's the idealized version of yourself, whatever it is, it's some type of 3D character, almost like a video game, right? That you're kind of maneuvering around this world like as if it's a video game. So I think we could refine that definition a little further. And I think the Wikipedia definition says specifically it's is a 3D virtual world in a shared space. Oh, and also I just saw this on another web page. Characteristic, I guess you could say, is that it's pervasive. So that means that even if you turn off your computer or log off, right, that virtual world still exists, right? So you can, so for example, if you are in VR chat, right, and you maybe there's like 20 other people there, then you decide, oh, okay, I've been here for 3 hours, probably go home, or I should probably go to sleep. even if you shut it, if you log off, like there's still people that are going to continue like existing in that space, right? So it's not like a video game that it's not like you press the power button on your Nintendo or your PlayStation, and then the experience disappears. It still exists for other people, and other people can from different places, whether they're in Europe or Australia or Africa, wherever they are, they're still, they have the ability to participate in that space.
No, I like the 3D.
Yeah.
Great point to kind of put anchor down there. So now, just going back to sort of examples a bit, to me, that would say things like Warcraft, or like, you had like EverQuest. Like, I'm thinking MMORPGs, massively
Yeah.
multiplayer online RPGs, to me, could be a candidate for among first metaverses. And I think, as we'll find, we're going to talk more about what is the what's the metaverse made from here next. But like, it does kind of beg the question, all these different platforms and experiences, like, and are they metaverses? But first, let's get into that. What is the metaverse made from, and how does things like software and other supporting digital tools and technology play a role in creating the metaverse?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess if we were to, if we were a chef with some ingredients, what would be the common ingredients to create a metaverse, right? What would we throw into the pot there? So I would say it would have to be online. It sounds pretty basic, but multiple people from different places would have to have the ability to log in and go into this 3D space, a shared 3D space. I do think it has to be represented by some type of 3D environment. So, a flat web page would not do it. I think you would have to be able to log into it. So it's some type of 3D engine, or some type of, whether it's literally a game engine, a video game engine, or some other software, that would be another element. So some type of online shared 3D environment. And now here is where there might be some disagreement depending on who you ask. But I think a lot of people are warming up to the idea that the metaverse does not necessarily have to involve a VR headset. I do, because when you think of metaverse, and it kind of conjures up the idea of, hey, these people have these goggles strapped onto their faces, and then and they're doing all sorts of goofy things in their living room. I think you can also experience the metaverse by just simply looking at your computer, looking into the window of your computer monitor, and navigating around using either a mouse and keyboard like you would in a video game, using the WASD keys right on your keyboard, or using a video game controller. So yeah, so the technologies it'd be on some type of online server, some type of 3D game engine, or some type of customized tool. And then for the user, you can use your computer, you could use your VR headset, or even your phone. There are some services out there like spatial.io. You can log in via your computer, your VR headset, or even your phone. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And I think that's going to be important, that these metaverses are accessible to different people, because not everybody has a VR headset, right? Because I think, just like any community, the community is only as good, or any metaverse or tool is only as good as its community. We need to have people using it for it to be useful. So yeah, so that's the other ingredient. That's the most important ingredient is the people in a metaverse.
I mean, I like that breakdown there. You have, sort of like the user experience, like the eyes, right? Or that's what we don't realize, is we're in all these different environments like all the time. And so now there's this online element, and there's a lot of plumbing. I'm glad you went into it a bit, just to add on to what you're saying, like data services, right? Now there's all this. Okay, so you run a website, we have, ETM, there's data services attached with that. And as we grow, I'm going to definitely keep investing, like, CDN, content delivery network. That'd be a good episode, right? We always say that. But I really believe it. It's like there's all this plumbing behind the scenes
Yeah.
to make like a website work. The metaverse is going to be insane. I mean, that could be maybe we'll take a little quick detour here, is like all the data involved. And now
Yeah.
I'm kind of pondering, whoa, there's going to be all these like hosting services. I know like these game environments do quite a lot in their environment, but then it's like, but when you export, that file is going to be probably big, or I'm not quite sure online. I'm sure they have some pretty advanced, probably cloud setups, I would imagine. Maybe that's some good questions to dig into. But yeah, I don't know if you know anything about that or even have thoughts on like the data set's going to be insane, like nothing like we've ever seen, because the whole web has been by comparison not visual, right? More written data. Like the web is pretty much written data, right, in different ways. Now we got pictures and video and like, as you said, pervasive. Well, what does that mean? It's like always on in some ways, right?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. The internet, it kind of grows and scales as the bandwidth grows, right? And then vice versa. Yeah, I remember there was a time where if you wanted to download an MP4 or I'm sorry, an MP3, not even MP4, an MP3 like music file, you would have to kind of connect via your AOL dial-up connection, and then okay, hit download and go through some maybe not. We'll call it an unofficial service to download files for sampling purposes that you would delete afterwards, and you would buy the actual music at the store, right? I'm just making sure that keeping things legal here. um, but yeah, yeah. So I remember it would take you hours to download like 1 megabyte of of data. Now that's like in an instant, right? Now actually no, you don't even have to download quote unquote something onto your hard drive. You could stream, right? Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, whatever, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, all the pluses, right? All that stuff that it used to be, that stuff would have to be downloaded, right? And you had to wait hours. So if you wanted to watch a movie, you would have to download it, and you had to wait like a couple hours, or you had to have a CD, right, a disc. Why are we mentioning this? Well, is because it's just to kind of illustrate the point that the services are getting faster, and we're now being able to serve up content faster. Movies that used to take hours will take literal seconds to watch, and the same thing will happen with these digital experiences, right? Being able to stream the metaverse. So basically, what does that mean? That means not having to wait. There's less waiting period, and when there's less waiting period, there's less friction. When there's less friction, and when I say friction, I mean like some type of barrier that prevents someone from wanting to engage in an app or website, right? Because we all know, hey, okay, this thing isn't loading. Well, I lost interest. I'm going to move on. Or oh, I got to download this app. I got to wait 5 minutes. I want it instantly, right? So the fact that the speeds are getting faster, and our ability to stream content, videos, music, right, etc. Because I mean, who downloads music anymore, right? We use Spotify, we use YouTube Music, etc. I think the same thing's going to happen with metaverses, and even games, right? Not having in that ability to instantly, right, just click a button and boom, you're somewhere like in this visually rich 3D environment, and it only took a few seconds. And that is another thing that's the everyday person, who's on the go and they're busy with their lives. They don't have time to invest in troubleshooting and figuring out, why is this working? Oh, I got to restart my computer. I got to download these drivers, this and that. No, you open it up just like you would open up a new browser tab on your Google Chrome, right? That's how instant it's going to be, and that's going to be key to getting more people into the metaverse, into any metaverse, and that's something that I think a lot of people, a lot of companies are strategizing around, just making it just user friendly, accessible, and that's something that would be a win-win for everybody.
So that's a good segue. Well, what is the purpose of the metaverse, and what do people do in the metaverse?
Right. So that is a good question, because right now, okay, so the metaverse today, like the ones that are being promoted by like Facebook, or maybe there's some other major ones that I'm not thinking of right now, but yeah, I think right now Facebook is. I mean, have you seen like the videos, like some of the demonstrations? Because it got a lot of backlash the past couple times they tried to promote the metaverse. Like, oh, that's it. Like, oh, how come we're just a bunch of cartoon avatars? Why does it look like early 2000s graphics? Why isn't it realistic? What do I do? This is it. This is boring. So I think at the moment the metaverse that Facebook is pushing is not quite polished yet. I don't think it's quite. I think it's still in the oven being baked, but they're still advertising it, and I think a lot of people, or they might be representing it as if it's a fully cooked meal already. I think they're still preheating the oven, so to speak. So I think that's why a lot of people are kind of maybe disappointed, and I think Facebook and these companies, they know that, hey, 2023 won't be the year of the where the metaverse, quote unquote, is a fully polished, mature product. I think they know. I think, at least I hope. I think they know that it's going to be a couple of years before like there's going to be a mass adoption. But for branding purposes and marketing purposes, a lot of these companies are putting their stakes in the ground, saying, "Hey, so when the time comes, they'll associate the metaverse with their brand or with Facebook." So, what do people actually do there? Well, I think the best example or the most successful metaverses I've seen are when people are not just standing around. And I mean, because if you ever logged into like VR chat or spatial or even Facebook Horizons, that's what they call it. Metaverses, the Meta or Facebook's version of the metaverse is called the Horizons. You log in, and it's just basically a lot of, and I've done this. I think I tried doing this. It's just people kind of like standing around and not doing anything. or or, or they kind of walk around and then they get to the end, they're inside of a room, they look around and they're like, oh, okay, that's it. It's kind of an empty room. It's kind of like going to a party and maybe you're there 3 hours early and there's nobody else there and the decorations aren't even up yet and the host isn't even there yet and you're by yourself. That's how it feels sometimes in the metaverse. But I think that's going to quickly change. I mean, and I'm talking about the metaverses that are the quote unquote metaverses that are being pushed by the big tech companies. Now, let's switch over to the metaverses that are alive and kicking right now, and that's good. And I'm talking about Roblox. Oh my God! Anybody who's like ages 8 to like 13, they basically live in Roblox. And are you familiar with Roblox, Aaron?
I am. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Now, Roblox is alive and kicking, and I think, and what do they do there? Like, so other than drain their parents' credit cards, because that's a big thing. One of my old coworkers, he has a son, and yeah, he would ask for his dad's credit card. His son would ask for his credit card, and they would. And the credit card would be used to purchase digital currency. They called it Robux. So Roblox has a currency called Roblox has Robux, and those Robux can be used to purchase items inside the game, quote unquote. And it's not really a game; it's really a community where you can build games and you can interact with other kids. Yeah, so that money can be used to buy digital items like accessories. You can fashion your avatar. You can unlock all sorts of different features of the game, or of the experience rather. And it's a huge online community for kids. And remember, those kids are going to grow up, and they're going to grow up, and that's going to be their standard. So I think if you want to get a glimpse of the future of how people will interact online, just observe kids in Roblox for like half an hour, and that's going to give you some insights. And what do they do? Well, they can build their own mini games, their own mini worlds. Yeah, they have basically, it's like an open world, like sandbox type of game, right? If you're familiar with that concept, right? Which is basically it's a playground to all the things that kids would do, like play, like play with Legos, right? But this is like the digital equivalent of playing with Legos, or this is the digital equivalent of setting up your own lemonade stand or setting up your own like obstacle course, and then inviting kids to come over to your house and play in your obstacle course, right? Or have a sleepover, that type of thing. So it's like playing in the park, but digitally. Now I know a lot of people are saying, thinking in the heads right now, oh, well, they're playing online. They should be outside. Well, they're also making friends that they normally wouldn't make friends with, because maybe there's a common interest, and they're not geographically close. They don't live in the same town. They're not geographically close, so you can make friends with all over the world. So yeah, so that's the community aspect of it. And there's so many other examples like Minecraft. There was one called Club Penguin back in the 2000s, and that was you were your own little cartoon penguin, and you were in this online community, and yeah, you're just making friends. So to answer your question, yeah, you in the metaverse, you're making friends, and you are usually banding together to create something, for some type of common cause, whether it's to make a game or play a game, or maybe you're teaming up, your clan is teaming up to defeat an enemy, or maybe you're gathering your squad to play the rival team in a sports game, or you're putting together elves and goblins to defeat to go on a quest and retrieve the gold or defeat the dragon. So I think having an objective, and this is just my opinion, I think having a very solid objective for people to do, whether it's a game like objective, or it's to have fun, or something more loose, or if it's just to meet people. I think having an objective, and this sounds like 101, right? But I think having some type of purpose is key to a metaverse being successful. Otherwise, without an objective, you just have an empty room with deflated birthday balloons and nobody there at the party, right? And what fun is that? I could do that at home. I don't need to go on the computer to do that. I can just sit in my empty room alone. So yeah, so that's
I'm
yeah.
liking that a lot. I
I know I
think
kind of I zigzagged a lot there, but
no,
yeah,
that's cool. I mean, it kind of begs the question, like what are the different metaverses like? And I'm kind of talking about, I would add to that. So you have gaming, so sort of like
yeah,
entertainment. And as you said, you're kind of networking and meeting people,
yeah,
and people can say, oh, you're like in an online world, but there's another human on the
yeah,
other side of
exactly.
that,
Yes,
those characters in
yes,
the game.
that's
So I think
important.
that
Yes,
makes it not this sort of isolated.
yeah,
In fact, you could more argue Web 1.0
yeah,
and
yeah,
2.0 was kind of, I mean, social media, yeah, it's social, but it's kind of isolated because you're getting the message and then you're reading it,
yeah.
later.
Hmm.
It's not sort of like live in real time. That's why I
Ooh,
think live
okay,
streaming is kind of taking off in a
okay,
different way because of the live. Like live, it means something.
yeah.
It really does, more so than recorded. And I think,
Ooh,
yeah, like YouTube videos are awesome that are like pre-recorded, but I think definitely interactions we're
yeah,
talking
real
about
time
here
interactions. Yeah.
definitely needs live. Like you can't do the metaverse pre-recorded.
Right, right. No, yeah, yeah. So that's Aaron. That's such a good point. So like, if we were inventing our own definition of metaverse, yeah, I would definitely include that in addition to being pervasive and being an online community and socializing. I think just making the distinction, just so people don't get confused, that you are actually interacting with real humans. They aren't just like what they call NPCs, non-playable characters. You're actually talking to a real human on the other side, and it's real time, right? And you're using your 3D avatar to interact with real people in real time. So yeah, that's such a good point.
Another thing to add on to it is like, so you have gaming and
Yeah,
socializing and then building, like you pointed out, which is pretty neat. It's kind of like this
yeah, like
creative
Legos. Yeah, yeah.
exercise, like
Hmm.
Roblox, Minecraft are definitely that. But
Uh-huh.
get this, you've got what you said with Meta. And the reason I think it fell flat is because it's not that inspiring to, like you said, be a 3D avatar. But the idea was that's meetings. So you go to the metaverse for a meeting. So now and I'd say Mozilla Hubs falls under this as
Uh-huh.
well. And I guess we're going into the next section, which is like companies that are working in metaverse. But basically, you have Mozilla Hubs. We could have instead of like going on Zoom or Jitsi or Google Video or Google Chat or whatever, like, one of these chat or conference call apps, if you will, you could go into Mozilla Hubs and we could have a meeting there. And I think there's Meta, what you were talking about. That was, I think, the purpose of it. So it's almost like, I guess it's kind of cool for business, a little more lively, but like compared to building something cool in Roblox, it looks kind of stupid. So I kind of see why it didn't really come off well, but yeah, what are your thoughts there of like, why are companies taking an interest in the metaverse? And you already mentioned
Uh-huh.
more of like, obviously like profit and dominating the market, but like more on a practical scale.
Yeah, but no, but good question. So, why are big companies taking interest in the so-called metaverse? Yeah, they definitely want to stake their claim now. They are anticipating there's going to be like a land grab, competing metaverses, and they definitely want, and they I think they know that it's not quite ready today in 2023 at the time of this recording, but they are kind of positioning themselves for the future. That this, whether it happens in 2025, when I say when it happens, I mean like a kind of a mass adoption of the metaverse. Because remember, those kids that are playing Roblox and the ones growing up playing Minecraft and everything, they're going to grow up to be adults and they're going to be in the workforce, right? And their whole method of communicating will be very different from the way we communicate. I mean, even think about how the generation before us, if you how they used to communicate, right? I know I had some coworkers, or I know of some people that had coworkers. They would just call you up on the phone instead of like message you on like on or text you, right? And it's a weird like social convention like they're breaking in a way, because but it's what they're used to. Like, oh, they would call you up on the phone, like, oh no, why don't you just text me? I don't like to text, right? So I think there will be some growing pains, and you're right. Like a lot of these big companies, they're trying to push the idea of using the metaverse to become or be a replacement in a sense for Zoom, for your traditional video calls. Remember, the video calls like Zoom and Google Video Chat, it wasn't as pervasive until like maybe 2019, and then definitely in 2020 when the pandemic hit, right? So prior to that, yes, a lot of companies were using it, but I would say it was not as mainstream or mass adopted until 2020. So there was that learning curve. Even today, like there's people that still don't know how to use Zoom, right? They're like, oh, you start, no, you're on mute. Oh, your camera's on. Your camera's, or you hear like screaming children in the background. Hey, Sandy, can you put yourself on mute? Can you right? Or okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? No. Or okay, you can see my screen. And then they share the wrong screen, and they're showing, and it turns into this infinite like mirror. Why am I mentioning this? Well, I think they're still growing. There's still growing pains today, but I think people are getting used to the idea of video chatting. So I think the same thing will happen with metaverse, right? So at first, for the first however months or years, people are still going to be not preoccupied, but they'll still be learning about the metaverse and like stumbling through like how to use it, how to use the darn thing. So and there will be a little bit of this mass frustration on how to use it. I'm just giving you the optimistic version of what might happen, right? But then after time, it's gonna take some time before meetings actually get productive, quote unquote, because like they're still trying to learn how to use the tool. So yeah, so because yeah, right now people are still struggling with how to use like video chat. How much more, like imagine like explaining to someone, okay, so you have this avatar, and basically you're teaching someone how to play a video game, right? So some people that are in a maybe a older generation, they may not be too keen on learning how to use a joystick and maneuver around an avatar, but someone who grew up as playing Roblox, no, this is second nature. Yeah, they know they'll probably figure it out before you even begin explaining to them. Like, oh yeah, I know how to do this, right? And they'll be off, and they'll be doing all sorts of tricks that you haven't even thought of. So the original question was why are companies? Yeah, they want to basically stake their claim, or they want to kind of claim their land, right, in anticipation for the future. The more near future reason is, of course, money. They want to be able to push advertisements. I know, or companies like Oreo, Doritos, Oreo, Doritos, Mountain Dew. I guess those are kind of like junk foods for gamers. But yeah, they're advertising heavily in the metaverses, like in Roblox, in NBA 2K, even, right? Just serving up advertisements. So basically, it's just another channel for them to push their advertisements, and just like they would put banner ads on a website, or they have advertisements on a live sporting event. They see metaverse as just an additional channel in alongside all their other media channels to push advertisements. So basically, they'll go where the eyeballs go, and I think they are anticipating that more eyeballs will go to the metaverse. So they're just basically going to where the eyes are, where the money, and that's where the money will be.
they have to sort of create a little bit on that land too. Like
Right.
I was pondering on I don't know if this was Sandbox or something else, but there's this one metaverse that has like a mall in it, and like Nike and like Louis Vuitton, like brands you would never think would invest in this, are like making serious plays. Like Nike bought a spot in the mall, and you're like, actually, that could totally work. I mean, people have all this extra time from working at home, or there is a, I mean, we haven't even talked like markets and demographics and age groups here, but it's like you were pointing out, you got younger gamers, but like guarantee you baby boomers will be like, oh, it's not so bad. You just go in there and kind of walk around. It's going to definitely happen. And then if shopping starts happening, like to your point, so, like Snoop Dogg has a mansion in one of these, it might be Sandbox.
Yeah,
And
Sandbox. Yeah.
so Snoop Dogg bought land and has a mansion in there. So that's the other thing that could totally take us off the rails of our pretty nice linear discussion is people are buying land in the metaverse. Land has a value in the metaverse. Oh, you want to buy land in the real world? How about in the metaverse? So all of these things that are happening, that's kind of me kicking the doors down here, is like everything we do in the real world is happening in the metaverse. And I guess I could go in a number of directions. You have Rust, like Rust is kind of like you're a Neanderthal human running around and people can like kill you, or you could like build a house, or you could be like great to each other, and you could like, but it's totally weird because it's like
Yeah.
you could like, people are weird on there. Just look it up, you'll see.
I'm not gonna look
So what do you think about
Right.
that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so I think, I think that's what's going on. Like, I'm just thinking about your example of the mall, right? How there's like a Nike store, a Louis Vuitton store at this virtual mall in a 3D metaverse. I think a lot of us and a lot of people that are listening to this right now are thinking, well, that's stupid. I mean, what's the point, right? I know I've said it myself, right? Because you can just go to a web page and add it to your shopping cart in Amazon, right? Click, 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 and it's there. Is there an additional benefit to having a 3D version of the Louis Vuitton store or the Nike store, right? From the examples I've seen, maybe not yet, because like we're saying, like it looks a little bit more empty. I mean, yeah, they buy the land, but they got to put the work into it too. They can't just expect people to come to an empty store. They have to put as much effort as they would into a real store to entice people to come to this 3D environment, right? And maybe entice, even put it, maybe double their effort because it's such a brand new idea, right? To come to the store. Now, I'm not saying that it's a lost cause. I think that there really has to be a good reason. Have to log in and make their own virtual avatar, and then pilot their virtual avatar into a store and buy a new Nike t-shirt, right? As opposed to, well, it's less effort to go to the Nike.com website and then click, 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 and you have your new football jersey, Nike football jersey. But that is for the older demographic, right? I think the strategy is that because they've been conditioned, right, by using Roblox, using Minecraft at an early age, right, to this is the way commerce works. We go into a virtual store and we buy virtual goods, right? I think flash forward 10 years from now, that's going to be the norm, because the younger generation, right, they're soon gonna have purchasing power, in 2030, whatever, right? And yeah, it might actually fit their mental model. Like, this is what they're used to. For us, we're kind of in between this transition period right now. So like all this novel stuff, I'm trying to keep an open mind about this, even though like my brain, like, this is stupid, this is pointless, but I'm trying to kind of put myself in the shoes of the people making these decisions, and why they are poisoning themselves to be this 3D environment. And I think it's because in the future, that's what's going to be. And it's not just this hypothetical future. I think they're looking at the habits of the young kids that are 10 years old, 12 years old, knowing that, hey, they're going to be consumers in buying things when they're in their 20s, right? When they get jobs. And this is what this metaverse paradigm, this is what they'll be used to. Now, it's not guaranteed that's what's going to happen. It's a gamble, obviously, just like when you gamble. Like, I've seen people actually. There was a university back. There was I'll say there was a university in North Carolina. I'm not going to say which one. back in the time of Second Life. Do you remember Second Life?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they spent like over $100,000, or maybe even more, maybe a million. I don't have the figure in front of me, but like they spent an exorbitant amount of money in 2008 dollars in the year 2008 on making a virtual version of their university in Second Life, and there was a big uproar. They were just like, "What? How can you spend our university money on some stupid digital crap? It's worthless." But they were kind of betting on, we're going to be the first university. We want to be the first. We're going to be pioneers. We'll be the first university, real university in a virtual world, right? But then some people that are listening to this might not even know what Second Life is, and so that's how it panned out, right? So yeah, that was. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it is a gamble, but I think that's what there is a risk, and that's their calculated risk. They're calculating that, or they're anticipating that this method of interacting online in a video game like metaverse experience, they're anticipating that will be the norm. It's not the norm now, and it may not be the norm next year, but I think they're thinking more long term, maybe 5-10 years. That is my hypothesis. For all I know, they just threw like a random dart on the wall and it landed on on something, and they're like, oh yeah, let's do that. Maybe it's totally random, or maybe it's a very calculated decision. So only time.
Well, I like that.
Yeah,
It's like spin the wheel of like
right.
VC approved catchphrases and words, and
Right.
like throw a dart. Like that'd be pretty tight. That should actually be in the metaverse, matter of fact. So yeah, I like that
Yeah,
there's some creative outlet there.
yeah.
And I think you're totally dead on. I mean, they can see something we can't, which is kind of why I was like proposing the question. It is good to dive into that because
Yeah.
you just realize that first off, stuff's going to take a while on many levels.
Yeah.
Probably not the tech, ironically, because we already got pretty epic video games
Yep.
and computer games and beyond immersive tech, right, experiences. So I really think it is kind of the users, not belittle our audience. Why are you taking so long to adopt? No, okay, I won't do that.
No, but you're right though, because like you have to give them a darn good reason to use metaverse, right? Because if the user doesn't like it, then you have nothing, right? I mean, it's hard enough just to get people to switch their breakfast cereals, right? How much more you really have to give them a strong case or a really good reason, whether it's a monetary reason or a social reason, or maybe your favorite star is in the metaverse, like Snoop Dogg, or maybe there's some type of discount. Oh, if you buy the new Nike, you have 15% off discount if you use the metaverse Nike store, that type of thing, right? There has to be some type of incentive to break people out of what they normally do, right? And because metaverse is kind of disrupting what people normally do in an everyday life, in their everyday lives. The everyday person is just going on about their day, waking up, going to work, and then they use they use the internet as a tool, maybe recreationally. But this metaverse thing is such a novel idea for a lot of folks to adopt. That group of people, you have to give them a good reason, in my opinion, to use the metaverse. And I think they're working on it. I think they're trying to figure it out.
I mean, was there anything else on your mind about metaverse or supporting technologies that you hadn't mentioned or we hadn't discussed?
Yeah. I mean, I know that it sounded it sounded almost like cynical, some things I was saying, but no, that's not what I want to. That's not the kind of the tone I want to come off as. Like, I really do think that some version. I mean, the metaverse already is here, right? But there are different pockets of the metaverse. Like when you think metaverse, people think it's one cohesive world that exists, but in reality, there are little different islands, right? Just like NBA 2K, the online basketball game, kind of lives in its own little bubble, right? And then Minecraft lives in its own little bubble. World of Warcraft lives in its own little community, right? And why, when I say bubble, I mean it's because you can't like just take your basketball player avatar and then have them travel over to the World of Warcraft instantly, right? You can't cross over, right, and use the same avatar, or you can't have your Roblox character appear in Fortnite, right? Or you can't just you can't just like open a door, then suddenly you're in a different metaverse or a different like experience. You have to kind of create a new account, create a new avatar, right? So at the moment, you're kind of managing your different identities on these different platforms, right? So I just wanted to also mention that as well. I think that's important because when people think metaverse, they think it's one general cohesive thing. I think at the moment, the way it exists right now, there are different little nation states that kind of live on their own in isolation. But some companies are kind of like, ooh, maybe we can make some. I think some of them are salivating at the idea of, oh, can we kind of create some universal like avatar that can be transferred from one company to another? Of course, the logistics of that, there's probably that probably won't happen because everybody, all that would mean like all these different companies would have to kind of play nice with each other, and we all know that's not going to happen. But that was just another detail I wanted to point out that there's all these little nation island states kind of existing in the metaverse, and to hop from one to another, you have to kind of create different accounts.
We need an international metaverse
Ooh,
compatibility spaceship or technology protocol, if you will,
yeah.
to cross all the metaverses or metaversi. And that's pretty funny. Actually, that's definitely something to think about is like everything's always so fragmented, all these
Yes.
platforms. Yeah, no, that's going to be a huge
Mm.
problem. And you know what? That might become another Facebook,
Oh,
Twitter, Instagram situation where it's kind of like winner take all,
yeah.
unfortunately. But we'll see what happens. Metaverse is more robust. You can do all this stuff on these platforms. So it's sort of like maybe there will be, like you said, to use your nation state comment, maybe it's like smaller towns. Like that's
Okay.
even how
Yeah.
I've looked at certain communities in crypto, even
Right.
is like let's assume you're building in the crypto space. Well, I actually think it's going to be more like a small town.
Mm,
Like here's your small town, you're a kind of boutique, you kind of know each other versus like big city, because like you're talking about these networks with all
mm.
this stuff going on. So I kind of like what you said. There's probably going to be the big city
Ooh, okay.
metaverses, and then there's going to be like small town metaverses, which likely will be open and open
Okay. Okay.
source and like have a whole different culture behind
Right.
it.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, okay. Just something popped in my head. Okay, let's say that. Okay, for instance, like Etsy.com. People want to sell, handcrafted goods like a T-shirt or a sweater or whatever, right? Jewelry or any type of e-commerce business. What would they do right now if they wanted to set up an e-commerce business, right? Like I think your friend says he said one of your friends might have a head shop or something, right? They would have to come up they would have to create some type of shopping cart system, right? E-commerce system. It'd be a web page, right? And then, but if they wanted, if your friend wanted to set up his head shop in the metaverse, well, that comes with a whole other set of tools. Wouldn't be a web page. Maybe he would have to have some type of like 3D version of his store, right, in a storefront, and then maybe there's all sorts of other video game esque kind of assets that go along with it. So I think that we're going to adapt in general. The population will adapt to whatever the new paradigm is. If it's not flat 2D web pages anymore, and it turns out, hey, we want to set up shop. We have to set up a literal, or not a literal, but like a 3D representation of a physical shop in the digital world, and instead of a web page that you scroll up and down and click. Right? Maybe it's ends up being a storefront or a store with an actual door you walk through, and you navigate around as if it's a video game, as if it's GTA 5 or something. Maybe that'll be the new online kind of metaphor for a store, right? Almost taking that concept of maybe there will be literally a shopping cart that you push around, right? Instead of having, like an Amazon, you can add something to your cart, right? Maybe there'll be a 3D cart where you put items in too. So maybe they'll take that metaphor to the next level.
I do like that, it could be kind of more zany, like a lot of crazy
Yeah,
things
well,
could happen in the
that's
metaverse.
True. Yeah, it could be zany. Like, why limit ourselves to the physical world, right? Where we have shopping carts and we open doors, right? In the online world, I mean, like, for example, maybe you don't have to walk from one city block to another. Like, maybe that takes time. You know, you could fast travel. Maybe you could fly. Maybe you can do all sorts of other things. So I think we're going to figure it out. I think companies, if this metaverse thing does catch on, we will all kind of refine what that experience will be like. And who knows? Maybe we'll all eat our words, and then this will be the wave of the future, and this will be mainstream, and this will be the way things are done. Or maybe not. I have no freaking clue. I don't.
Think there's a good opportunity to dabble with
Yeah.
metaverse and like follow it if you're drawn to it. And I'll admit, I was kind of like you said, more like skeptical, maybe even like curmudgeonly
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. But the more I've used it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I
Yeah.
think really people need to like try at least something we've
Yeah.
mentioned, and are, obviously go to the show notes if you want to
Yeah.
check out different things. But it's kind of like when we talk about VR and all this immersive tech. Okay, AR, we can kind of show you like, yeah, it's like something from Iron Man, but when you have to put on the headset, like VR, for example, virtual reality, it's, you have to look at it
Right.
yourself, because your eyes are going to bring you the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like metaverse is going to be a little bit more maybe mainstream, like you said, you could be on your phone, but I do think if people try it more, it'll make more sense, or not.
Yeah.
And like you said, if people are not gravitating towards it, frankly, they're probably not even listening to this podcast.
Right.
Because it's like, if you don't know what a podcast is, I would be very surprised if you're looking into what a
Right.
metaverse is, if that makes sense. It's like there's a good amount of people that don't even talking about podcasting as a platform. It is getting
Yeah.
better. Podcasting has kind of been left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Like we went from like blogs to video, and I don't know why. I'm kind of holding my I had some experiences when I first got into podcasting with this radio guy, and he's still pretty like hardcore, like OC Talk Radio in Orange County, Costa Mesa, California.
Okay.
So not in LA, but a little bit to the east, and definitely an interesting place where I kind of got some experience with the podcasting. And he's really hardcore about radio. And so what I'm trying to say is like, there's still so much that needs to happen in, frankly, a lot of different spaces with tech. So like the podcast directory thing, for example, like I think YouTube has a podcast thing now.
Really?
So it's kind of weird
Oh, no, I
because
had no
yeah,
idea.
definitely. So I feel like there's still so many more people that need to like even learn what a podcast
Yeah,
is. And then there's people that are listening to the podcast that are like, all right, maybe I'll try that. But it's like everything takes a lot of time. I
does.
think definitely a big underestimate. Maybe this could go into one of my solo episodes, is like, it's so easy to underestimate how long stuff takes. And like if you're betting your career on it, yeah, you're gonna have a good bad time. Sorry to tell you that. But that's real, battle tested experiences and perspectives. So I think that's super good actually to share, because people can kind of dabble and like take it in stride. And hey, if you're going to try to like get into the industry in quotes, it's going to probably be challenging. And then also don't be surprised if the landscape changes, like, oh, Web3, oh, metaverse, like, oh, blockchain, oh, blah, 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 AI. So, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think that's why I'm a big proponent of like, well, what's the actual tech you're using or like working with? And final closing thoughts. Yeah. I'd say, so what, like 3D online shared space using some kind of like modern, like gaming engine, even if it's like Mozilla Hubs, right?
It could be something lightweight where it's web based, right? You just open up your browser, or it's a plugin.
And I think, a lot of people are interested. I think other side of this is it might take a while, and a lot of people don't get it or may not get it, or maybe it won't ever get it and it won't take off.
Maybe the people that don't get it, maybe that those aren't the people they're after. They're trying to lure anyway. Maybe they want the people that are in a different demographic. Maybe it'll be the future generation that they're targeting, right? Maybe they're like, okay, well, this demographic, they probably will never use metaverse. Maybe the Roblox users or the Gen Z kids, maybe they'll be more open to the idea of metaverse, possibly, but we'll see what happens. I think I could totally see a company or a game or social media platform that already has an established audience kind of pivoting or leaning into, or maybe adding an additional like metaverse-esque feature to what already exists, right? So like and that would maybe ease the adoption a little more, because oh, okay, And I think that's kind of what Facebook was doing, right? Because people use Facebook, a lot of people, well, I guess the older generation, and I guess we fall into that generation of older generation, the people that have Facebook accounts, they're trying to say, hey, okay, well, we have all these eyeballs already. We have all these people participating in this social media platform. Maybe we can convert them into metaverse users, right? Without you even realizing it, right? That could be right because maybe that's how they're looking at it as well, like taking existing users and kind of transforming them into metaverse users without us actually realizing it. So that could be another strategy. So yeah, I kind of agree. I'm actually happy with our definition of metaverse, right? That we came up with. I think it covers the bases and it's not so loosey goosey that anything can be the metaverse. I think there are
Yeah.
specific parameters for what qualifies as a metaverse. So, if anything, that's something we got out of this podcast today.
Yeah, well, thanks for jumping on, Eric. I appreciate the perspective there and takes on it. Should we say see everyone in the metaverse or in the future?
You know what? We actually might see some of you at. Can I say that we could see them at NAB in April?
Yeah, maybe so.
All right.
Maybe so.
Okay, yeah. So we might see you in the metaverse or in cyberspace, or maybe even in IRL. So, looking forward to having some fun chats with everybody here in the community. Love the energy and the collective knowledge that we all share. So, because remember all this, the way I think about it is that all this metaverse stuff and technology, we're all building this together, and the people that are involved in the community, we're the ones that are kind of shaping the future. So it's it's a lot of fun. It's going to be a hell of a ride. So I appreciate being on. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing, and everyone check out the show notes, and I will see you all in the metaverse. See ya. Yeah, buddy.